Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to take a very brief look at the game Card of the Dead. Now this is a game for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, with the average play time being about 15 minutes per round. This is a zombie-themed card game that will task players with earning the most survivor points. The person that can do so over the course of 3 rounds will win the game. Let's just take a quick moment to look at the components and see how the game is played. Now, the only real component to this game is a deck of 56 cards, but as you can see, there are a few different card types. Over here on the left, with the yellow header text, are action cards. You can see the number of movement points they grant in the upper right-hand corner of the card, and you can see the special action that they grant on the bottom. And I'll explain the differences between the two in a minute. In the middle, you've got the zombie cards with the green header text. Basically, the different zombie cards tell players how to resolve them if they're asked to pass them to other players. For example, if you're asked to pass a zombie card to another player, you would go ahead and give these zombie cards first, and then after that, if you don't have any more of those in front of you, you'd pass the zombies, and then finally the zombies cards with the exclamation points at the end. Both of these two cards have special conditions on the bottom. They might say, counts as 2 zombie cards, cannot be discarded with a slugger. The zombies cards with the exclamation points cannot be discarded with a slugger or a chainsaw card. And you can see these cards over here. There's the chainsaw. Different action cards will help to combat these zombie cards. Finally, over here on the right, you've got these event cards. They have the blue header text, and basically as players draw them, they'll be asked to resolve them. The cornered event card, discard all of your movement cards. Ringtone, take 1 zombie card from every other player, and so on and so forth. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the game is played over a series of rounds, a total of 3 to be exact. However, players don't really have to follow that. They can play 1 round if they so choose to, if they're strapped for time, and the player with the most survivor points at the end of that 1 round will ultimately win the game. So you can play as many rounds as you want to, in all honesty. Now, with that being said, at the beginning of a round, each player will receive 10 cards from the deck that was shuffled, and they'll go ahead and choose 3 action cards that have 1 movement point listed in the upper right-hand corner of the card. 3 to keep. Let's see here. There's a hide and slugger. There we go. We'll do that one. Now, once you have up to 3 action cards that have 1 movement point in the upper right-hand corner, you just return the other ones to the deck. Once all players have done this, you'll go ahead and shuffle the deck up again. Now, a player's turn is pretty simple. At the beginning of your turn, you'll just simply take a card from the deck, and you'll resolve it depending on what kind of card it is. If it's a zombie card, you'll just simply place it in front of you. If it's an event card, you'll go ahead and resolve it and then discard it. And then finally, if it's an action card, you can go ahead and add it to your hand. Alright, so just to quickly resolve that, we'll go ahead and pick up a card, and this ended up being a zombie card, so we'll go ahead and play it in front of us, and that'll go ahead and be added to the total number of zombie cards in front of you. If a player accumulates so many zombie cards in front of them, they'll first become surrounded, in which case they won't be able to play any movement points, which I'll explain in a minute, and then they'll become eaten. Obviously, being eaten is not a good thing. You won't score any points for that round if you become eaten. The number of zombies that you'll need to have in front of you in order to be first surrounded and then eaten is all determined by how many people are playing the game. Just to quickly show you this, there's 2 different charts in the manual to show you how many you'll need of each in order to be first surrounded and eaten. For example, in a 2-player game, you'll need 5 zombies in order to be surrounded. But in order to be eaten for a 2-player game, you'll need 7 zombies in front of you. Again, a player who's been eaten does not score any points for that round, so try to get rid of those zombie cards wherever possible. After a player has drawn a card from the deck and resolved it appropriately, they have the option to play an action card from their hand if they so choose to. Now, whenever they play an action card, they can take 2 different actions with these. They can play a card as a movement card. Basically, they can just simply play it in front of them and observe the number in the upper right-hand corner. If a player manages to reach a certain number of movement points, they will have escaped the city and will earn that many survivor points. If a player does not want to play a action card as movement, they can go ahead and play the action down here along the bottom and then discard it. For example, if the player wanted to get rid of the zombie in front of them, they can play this slugger card, discard a zombie, or take a card from another player's hand. So this player has a choice. They could play this card, for example, right in front of them, count it as a movement point for that round, or for that turn, and be done, or they can discard this card as an action and get rid of this zombie along with it. And that's pretty much all there is to it as far as a player's turn is concerned. You'll pick up a card, resolve it, and then you'll have the option to play a card. And this will continue back and forth until one of three different things happen. The first thing that could happen is that all of the players except for one get eaten. The survivor will gain 5 survivor points. We'll just simply note that on a separate piece of paper, and that will end the round. In this case, this player up here has accumulated enough zombie cards to be eaten, so that only leaves this player here, and as the survivor, this player would get 5 survivor points and record that. The second way that the game can end is if a player manages to reach a certain number of movement points for that round. Again, there is a chart listed in the manual that will tell you how many movement points that you'll need in order to escape the city. In a 2-player game, for example, you'll need 7 movement points. So let's just say that this player had enough movement cards here. Put that there, and that there, and there we go. So we got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so we have 7. So in this case, the player has played 7 movement cards and has enough points to have escaped the city. That'll automatically end the round, and let's assume that this player is not dead. Alright, so what will happen in this case, the player that escaped the city will go ahead and earn that many survivor points, in this case 7. And in this case, every other player that is still in the game or has not been eaten will earn the number of survivor points equal to their movement points. So in this case, this player has 2 movement points in front of them, so they'll just earn 2 survivor points for that particular round. The final way the game can end is if the deck runs out. Let's just do that, and we'll do that. Now in this case, the same thing happens. Basically, the number of survivor points that a player will earn depends on how many movement points they have in front of them. In this case, this player would earn 4 points, and this player would earn 2 points. And there you have it. That's just a very brief look at the game Card of the Dead. I didn't cover all of the rules in the manual, but this should just give you a general idea as far as how the game is played. You can check out my review via the below links, or you can just go to www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. This is Vince, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.